there any other questions on the SCRA? Yes, sir.
On the interest cap, you know, are lenders prohibited from any effort to recapture the interest they couldn't collect when the service person was on active duty when they returned?
They are. It has to be lowered to 6% during that duration of time. And upon their return, I mean, they can adjust the interest rate to the original, amount, from 6% to 7.5. That was what it was at before. But they cannot, recoup any lost interest during that time. Yes, sir.
You mentioned mortgages under SCRA.
Yes.
Does that also apply to deeds of trust?
I do not know the answer to that question offhand, but you can give me a call at the office. I'd be more than happy. And it might be in the guide. I do not have that guide memorized. I just, mostly what I come across. Actually, I mean.
Yeah, this is a question really. You said that we can stay most civil proceedings, like all civil proceedings, but the criminal ones you can't.
No.
Is that because you're either a dependent, or just because it's just criminal proceedings are separate somehow?
There's Congress's intent. They just decided that they weren't going to include criminal proceedings. And a lot of times it makes sense. If someone's charged with murder, why should they be allowed to deploy?
What about, like, say, witnesses?
I think that's up to the individual prosecutor. If they feel like their case is strong enough to go forward without that witness, then they can go forward with the case. However, they feel like they need that witness. It's up to the court to grant them that continuance. Yes, sir.
During credit card, the non-military spouse keeps using it after the military spouse is on active service. Is the added charges, added advances subject to the interest cap?
I believe the way it works, and it's not. Okay. Major Cooper said no.
They can do really, they get very creative in their tracking. They'll track the balance at 6%, and they'll track the additional at the deadline.
But it depends on the company. A lot of times, I know I had to invoke that protection when I deployed to Iraq, and I think it was Bank of America. They, as soon as they got my orders in the notice, they lowered the interest rate, and even during the duration, while I was deployed, not that I had much occasion to use my credit card, but they didn't, the interest they charged me was still 6%, although they didn't have to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Material effect, that has meaning to me, but are there any legal standards as to what the material effect is? Paying more interest would appear to be a material effect no matter what, but since it's in there, I assume it means something.
Yes, materially affected. It's, in some instances, some National Guard members that are called active duty actually make more money on their active duty job than they do in their civilian job. However, they can be materially affected because they're not here to take care of their everyday affairs because they're in Iraq, and that's materially affected. And as far as the context that you provided, and you're talking about the credit card, the 6% interest rate cap on that, it's the burden's on the credit card company to say, hey, they're not materially affected.
Are you aware of that ever happening?
I am not aware, but the National Guard member has nothing to lose by asking them to reduce it to 6%. And at that point, if the creditor, does want to take it to court and show that the service member isn't materially affected, we can take it from there. And most creditors going to do that? I don't know. I won't assume so. Depending on what interest the interest rate originally was. Yes, sir.
How much of, if any of this applies to defendants?
Some of it does, and
is it in here?
Yeah, it is in there. Residential leases are same with the you and your wife have credit card, joint account. It's applicable there. There are some provisions where it's not applicable, and I think the next few speakers are going to speak on certain areas, you know, individual areas of law, and they'll let you know.
Well, just to kind of segue onto that, you know, service members deployed and the family member has some sort of a legal issue. Will you refer that family member to us
Yes.
under this program?
Yes, and that's mainly at this point what the program is geared for, because most of the service members are going to be overseas, and their family members are going to remain behind, and I mean, they're the ones that are going to have to deal with the landlord-tenant issues, or, you know, other legal issues, you know, that affect them, and, you know, you're here to provide that service to assist them with that, so that service member in Iraq can keep his mind focused on his mission or her mission, and, you know, whatever that mission may be, and you want that, because if someone's out on patrol in Baghdad, you don't want their mind thinking, oh my gosh, my wife, I'm trying to evict her, what am I going to do? And, you know, that's not good for, it could place her life in danger. So, I mean, the service that you guys are providing is very important.